Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. I am Sean Anderson, Most Valuable Podcast, and this guy right next to me is Dave Oster of the Fast Break Podcast and of Most Valuable Podcast. And you might not have seen his face in a while if you were an old onside kick subscriber.
I've been hiding away.
We've been storing Dave away.
I was a drafting stash. Little did you know.
Well, the Celtics, who we are covering, obviously took a couple of these drafting stashes. And obviously, you can look at Dave's complexion. Yep. He's been drafting and stashing away in some nice warm place. But we'll get into the Celtics pick here. They had the third overall pick, and they selected Jaylen Brown, the forward out of Cal. And then they had the 16th overall pick, where they took Gershon Yabuzele, the forward from France. And then they had the 23rd overall pick. They took Ante Zizic from Croatia. He's a center. Then they took Demetrius Jackson, the point guard from Notre Dame, with the 45 overall pick. They took Ben Benso from Providence with the 51 overall pick and 51st overall pick. And then they took Abdel Nader, a forward from Iowa State, with the 58th pick of the draft. And let's get into Jaylen Brown first off, because there's a lot of criticism here. Do you like the pick? Do you hate the pick? What's your opinion here?
I want to hate the pick. I feel like the Celtics choked on this one. They definitely want to go out and get a superstar if they want to do that. And, if they couldn't pull the trigger right away even, I think they should have gone with Chris Dunn here. He has the most value across the board. Two teams that, they were already having discussions with. Jaylen Brown seems like a total... it's just a comp pick. It's like, we couldn't get who we wanted. Well, technically Jaylen Brown has the best upside. Why? Because he's athletic, because he's got the body of an NBA player. He's already there physically. Unfortunately, there are so many pitfalls in his game. He is not even close to a polished player. He is, I'm talking, when Phil said, Porzingis is like a 3-year project, 2-3-year project? Yeah, that's Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown can come in. It's ugly watching him play. And then other nights, he looks absolutely fantastic. Like, the level of competition doesn't matter. It just seems when he's got it. The big concern for me, honestly, is his growth in this Celtics organization. I don't know if it's the best place for him because of where they're at currently. They're a playoff team. They're trying to make that push to compete against LeBron James. And Jaylen Brown's going to get some minutes. How's he going to fit in the rotation? I don't love it.
I'm in agreement with you, which is weird because we're starting the We Agree
It's almost
podcast.
like we agree.
Yes, every single time.
It's a fucking shocker.
Oh, thanks.
Ricky's coming in off camera here. But I agree there. Jaylen Brown, I think you could have gotten Chris Dunn. I mean, the Bulls were in talk of moving up to get the 3rd overall pick or the 5th overall pick to get Chris Dunn. I think you could have picked Chris Dunn and then used him in trade talks there because obviously you didn't need him with Isaiah Thomas, but he is obviously the most valuable player, at least from this draft, that wasn't Ben Simmons or Brandon Ingram. Yeah. And I think that his fit would kind of be what Evan Turner was last year. I think he's not going to re-sign with the Celtics, so obviously you're going to bring in a wing scorer there. So we'll see how he develops. We'll see how many minutes he can get. We'll see if he can make his shots. We'll see if he can go to the basket consistently because I think he'll make a living doing that.
Yeah, that's absolutely his best opportunity because his shot's not there. I almost wonder if it's one of those situations where he doesn't know which is his correct shooting hand. We talked about a couple players previously had that, like Tristan Thompson switched, Bismack Biyombo switched, and they've seen improvements. So there's hope for him improving his shot. He's still a young kid.
Yeah, and maybe it's just more he just needs to work with the right coach, and maybe Brad Stevens is that right coach. We think very highly of Brad Stevens here. Yeah. I think he's a top 5 coach in the NBA, so he's obviously going to a great organization in the Boston Celtics, but was it the right pick? We'll just have to wait and see because there's no true answer. Right now, it's not a great pick, but we'll go to the 16th overall pick and the 23rd overall pick, the draft and stash here. We'll go to Gershon Yabuzele from France, and we'll go to Ante Zizic from Croatia. What do you think about these two draft and stashes?
But again, I feel like Boston came into this draft with one mission, and that was get them some players who can help them win now. And instead, we see them fall back to the backup plan of, well, Gershon can help us down the line. Let's pick him up now. He's got value. We've seen some potential, which is, good, but we're not going to see him for a while. And then Zizic, I think, is actually going to help them out sooner than everybody expected. I think either this year or next year he'll be over. Talent-wise, he definitely can play up with the bigs in the NBA. I really want to see him kind of get a starring role, actually. I think he's the future for them when it comes to that position. I just don't know when that is. If it's this year, if it's next year, I don't know if they've gotten a hard line on that.
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement with you too. Weirdly enough,
Oh my God.
Zizek, he was a mid first rounder for me, and you needed a center position there because a true center there because there was a lack of a big man or a quality big man in Boston for a while there. Jared Sullinger really didn't pan out. Kelly Olynyk didn't pan out. So we'll definitely see what Zizek can do. I think he'll be a monster on the board. So obviously I like that pick there, and we'll just have to wait and see when he does come over and what he can do when he comes over. But with Gershon, I had him as a second round draft pick, and if they took him at 23rd, then I wouldn't be complaining too much. But then again, I feel like you could have gotten more that could help your team right now. I mean, there's guys like Henry Ellison out there who could help your team at least next year, or who can be on your team next year working with a guy like Brad Stevens. I think that would have been a better pick there because he can stretch the floor for you. I think that would add a depth to the Celtics team that they are missing, and maybe you
That's interesting. Depth to the Celtics team they're missing. That is a team full of
I'm
average
talking
players.
At that position.
Yeah. They are packed with average players.
I think Ellison could be decent. That's what I'm more trying to say. I think you get a starter in Ellison, where Ubusley, there's a lot of question marks there. So I think it's really hard to say that they failed at those positions. Like I think Jaylen Brown was more of the failure there, but I think that Zizek was a great pick. I think Ubusley might be able to be a great pick. It's hard to really judge. But if we're talking about guys who contribute right now, Demetrius Jackson with the 45th overall pick and Ben Bentil with the 51st overall pick. These are two of my prospects that I loved, and you getting them both was fantastic here. But then again, it's a question mark. Will Ben Bentil be able to make this squad? Because there is a lot of depth, and we don't know if he'll be able to make the team over guys that are already established in the Celtics organization. And then Demetrius Jackson, is he going to be the third backup? Because, I mean, he's going to be playing behind Isaiah Thomas and Marcus Smart, so will he be even seeing the court in this first year? So we'll definitely have to see. What are your thoughts on Jackson and Bentil?
I think, like you said, you are already a fan of these guys coming into the draft. I think they have great value. They're guys who have established themselves in their own college systems, and they were effective. Look, I'm all for drafting for potential, but when you got a guy like Bentil who can go out and score 20 a night in college, I'm sorry, that's proven already. Okay, we've got a guy who can score, we're set. And then Demetrius Jackson, he ran an offense, he could get the ball moving around. I think that both these guys are going to have a lot to prove in Summer League. And like you said, it's going to be a little bit of a fight to get on that roster for Bentil. Demetrius Jackson, I see an easier route for him in. But Bentil, I really do have hope for. I think he's going to make this final roster.
I hope that Bentil can make this final roster. That's a hope for me. But if not, if I'm a team, I'm just waiting for that to see Wojciechowski say Boston Celtics has released Ben Bentil, and I would just be calling him right away because this kid can be something in the NBA. And then their final pick with the 58th overall pick is Abdel Nader. Two guys who we don't think, or a guy who we don't even think will make the final roster, and really a guy who wasn't even on my radar, a guy who I didn't even think would make the team. He's not going to make the team.
That's like second Cyclone in the draft. Bit of a surprise to me as well. I think it was they had an interest in him. They want to see him work out. They want to see him play a couple games. Summer League. I mean, it's at that point in the draft, you're just taking shots in the dark. Let's be honest. You want to see, hey, maybe he has potential. Maybe we get him. Maybe we drop him in the D League. Yeah, that's best case scenario.
We'll definitely see what happens with Abdel Nader, but he's not a game changer here at all. But I think Demetrius Jackson, Ben Bentil can. I think the Celtics started off very poorly. I think the first two picks were the wrong mistake. And you're talking about bringing in a young superstar, a superstar to bring into this team to make them a legitimate threat in the Eastern Conference. And there's no help right away. You're not going to get help right away from Jaylen Brown. He's not going to be a starter on this team, and you're not going to get help from Ubusley right away. We'll see what Zizek, Jackson, and Bentil can do here, but then again, we're not completely sure. I'm going to give them a grade of a C- because you're not getting immediate help for your team, and that's exactly what the Celtics team needs. I mean, we'll definitely see if they can package Brown later on in a trade, because they do still have the Nets pick for next year, so we'll definitely see what they can do there, and maybe they'll be able to work out a deal in that way for maybe a Jimmy Butler or something like that, but we'll
just
definitely have to see.
Just a marathon draft for the Celtics team, and it just seemed to go in the wrong direction way too often.
It did. Bill Simmons was making drinks, I think, after the first pick. He said his dad had a heart attack after the Jaylen Brown pick, so it's definitely a hard night for Celtics fans. There's a lot of potential in this draft, but this team doesn't need potential. This team needs superstars. Thank you so much for watching these draft grades. If you do not want to miss any of the other teams, check out the playlist down below, or just subscribe to our channel, because we'll be putting them out every single chance we get. Ricky's just going to be a machine uploading them every single quick. He's got quick hands. He's editing them down. He's uploading them. So if you don't want to miss them, check out the link in the description, or check out our page, Most Valuable Podcast. If you don't want to miss any of our post-draft coverage, free agency coverage, subscribe to our channel. And if you like these draft grades, if you like the grade I gave to your team, like this video. And if you didn't like this grade, tell us in the comments why it should be higher, why it should be lower. What did your team do right? What did your team do wrong? But that's going to wrap up this video. If you do want to follow us on different places, you can find us on Twitter at Most Valuable Pod. You can find me on Twitter at Schwarbo. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Snapchat. You even find us at patreon.com/Most Valuable Podcast. If you donate at least $1, you do get a monthly exclusive podcast, and it's people from the MVP Network. The one for July is me, Mike, and Brandon, and it's a pretty fun one. Mike had some pretty good stories, so if you do not want to miss out on that, go to patreon.com/Most Valuable Podcast. It's going to wrap up this draft grade video, and I will see you next time.